Hey, I'm Paige. Welcome back to my kitchen. You're watching the next episode of Doughing It with Paigey. Today we are making the Kneaded Batard recipe from the cookbook Bread Baking for Beginners by Bonnie Ohara. Now in the book, this is described as a oval or football shaped loaf. If you do some research online, you will find that it's very similar to a baguette. It's just not as long and it's a little bit wider. So the past couple of times that I've made this recipe, the loaves have ended up being more round than they are oval or football shaped. When it comes time to shape them, every time I shape them, they end up being long. The issue with that is that when I go to drop that into my Dutch oven, it's gonna be all scrunched up because my Dutch oven is round. So this recipe does mention under the tools or equipment needed that you could use a baking stone and a roasting pan with water to cook them if you need to do that. So I'm going to modify the recipe today and see how they turn out when I shape them. If they're really long and they're not going to fit in my Dutch oven, we're going to cook them on a baking sheet. We're going to start out by weighing out our flour, water, yeast, and salt. We're then going to add the yeast on top of the water and mix that until it's nice and bubbly. We'll then add the flour on top of the water and yeast mixture and the salt on top of the flour. That will keep the salt from coming in direct contact with the yeast, which can inhibit a rise. Now I like to mix my ingredients by hand because it really allows me to feel the dough and feel when all of the ingredients are well combined. If you don't want to mix by hand, that's perfectly fine. You can mix with a rubber spatula, a wooden spoon. I've even seen people do it with their dough scraper, so feel free to do whatever you like. You're going to want to mix this until it's really stretchy. That is how you're going to know that your ingredients are well combined and the dough is mixed well. We're now going to let the dough set for about 20 minutes so that the flour can absorb some of that water. Now that our dough is done resting, we are going to go ahead and start kneading it to give it a little bit of strength and structure. I'm going to use my dough scraper to get this out of the bowl. Before I do this, I'm going to add a little bit of flour because this is going to be sticky. Now we've got a really slack piece of dough here. So what we're gonna try to do here is tighten it up. So we're gonna knead it by pushing our hands forward and pulling the dough back. Give it a quarter turn, do the same thing. And I usually do this for about 5 to 10 minutes until the dough has tightened up. Now, if your dough is getting sticky on the countertops like this, just use your dough scraper to get it off the counter and add a little bit more flour. All right, our dough is done being kneaded, so what I'm gonna do is pop this back into the bowl. And we're gonna let this rise for 3 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and cover this up with a floured kitchen towel and we'll come back and check it then. Okay, it's been about 3 hours. You can tell our dough is visibly larger. It is doubled in size. So we're gonna go ahead and get our dough pre-shaped. Right, before we get this pre-shaped, we want a little bit of flour on our countertops just so the dough doesn't stick. Now I meant to mention earlier, I have actually cut this recipe in half. The recipe makes 2 full loaves, and I've cut that in half, and I initially planned on making 1 loaf today, but I think what I'm going to do, since we ran into the issue with my Dutch oven last time, I think I'm actually going to make 2 mini loaves. I'm going to turn this out of the bowl, and we want this top side down on the countertop. So to pre-shape the dough, we're going to divide this into 2 equal pieces. And all we want to do is get this round with some nice tension across the top. So I usually just like to fold the sides of the dough underneath it, and then just create some tension across the top. You can use your dough scraper to just slide this underneath, or you can use your hands like I'm doing here. If you need a little bit more flour, just add it. And we'll do the same technique with the other one, a little bit of flour. We're going to cover these up and let them bench rest for about 30 minutes. I'm just going to cover them with my floured kitchen towel, and we'll come back and check them in just a minute. Before we get started shaping the spread, I want to introduce you guys to something that helped me when I moved on to this recipe in the book. If you're a little bit intimidated by the instructions to shape this, I would definitely recommend practicing with the kitchen towel, and since we're making a oval or football shaped loaf today, I thought it was only fitting to use a football towel. So I'm going to show you guys how to practice on a towel. The instructions say to fold this down to about the center, and then take these 2 corners right here and pull them into the center, and we're going to push this all down with the heel of our hand to create a really nice tight seam here. It then tells you to take these bottom 2 corners and fold them in towards the center, just like you did with the top. You'll then take the top and seal this down onto itself and create a nice good seam along the bottom. Now, this looks like a triangle, obviously, because it's a towel, but I'll show you guys what this looks like when we use it on our dough. Okay, our dough is done bench resting, and it is time to shape these. I'm going to scoot these back a little bit so I have room. Add a little bit of flour here. So we're going to turn this over so that the sticky side is up facing us, and we're going to take this top part and fold it down to the center. Now we have these 2 top corners. We're going to take these and fold them into the center. And we want a tight seam here in the middle. So just make sure you're getting a tight seam. Now we have these bottom 2 corners. So we're going to take these and pull them up towards the center, just like we did with the top. Again, tight seam, pinch it if you need to. Now we'll take the top part and fold it onto the bottom. Use the heel of your hand to press this seam nice and tight. And now you can roll this out. Just again, create tension across the top. And there we have it. So I'm going to do the exact same method on this one. can make these ends as pointy as you want them. So maybe I'll do one pointed, one not. As I mentioned in the beginning, I wasn't going to know how we were going to cook these until we got them shaped. Now that I can see them, they are a little bit long. I might be able to fit these into my Dutch oven, but it might be a tight squeeze. I don't really want to mess up the shape of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook these on a baking sheet with a roasting pan filled with water just to create some steam inside of the oven. And I just want to show you guys the difference of the picture. This is how it looks in the book, and these are how long they turn out. We are going to let these proof on a baking sheet for about an hour to an hour and a half, and I am letting ours proof seam side down. Now, if you have the oval proofing basket at home, feel free to use that. This is for anyone who doesn't have an oval proofing basket or ended up with a really long shaped batard and you plan on cooking this on a baking sheet, just follow my lead. I'm gonna go ahead and fill up a roasting pan with about 1 inch of water and preheat my oven with this inside. All right, our batards are done proofing. We're about to put them in the oven. I have my roasting pan inside the oven filled with water, and that is now boiling, so it's creating a lot of steam in the oven. So we're gonna go ahead and score these and put them in. Here is what they look like. I am obsessed with them. I think they're so cute. They are super close to each other, so I'm a little nervous that they're gonna like bake together, but we're gonna score them and hopefully that doesn't happen. So 30-degree angle with your lamb, and we're gonna slash these lengthwise, and you want a deep slash from this. Just try to be quick about it. If you need to go back over it, go ahead. Same thing on this side. All right, we're gonna put these in, and I'm gonna put them in for about 20 minutes and see how they look, and we'll go from there. I just wanna note that there aren't any instructions on how long to bake these for if you bake them on a baking sheet, so this is really a trial run for me. I'm just gonna keep my eye on them the best that I can, and I'll let you guys know how long they baked for when they get out. So our bread is out of the oven. It's been cooling for about 45 minutes. If you make bread at home, just be sure to let it cool for at least 30 minutes before you cut into it. I cooked these in the oven with the roasting pan for about 20 minutes, and then I took the roasting pan out, let all the steam out of the oven, and let these cook for about 15 more minutes. Just remember that I halved this recipe, and then I made 2 small loaves out of that half portion of the recipe. So if you halved the recipe and made 1 bigger loaf, you may need to adjust those times a little bit if you cooked it on a baking sheet. So let's go ahead and do a taste test. So as always, the bread turned out so good. It's not as crispy as it normally is, and I think that's probably due to the fact that they weren't cooked inside of the Dutch oven. But overall, I think that they're very good, and we're gonna go ahead and give my dog a taste test since she's been waiting on bread all day. This is Duchess. She loves bread. Good? She likes it. Hopefully the minor modifications that I made to this recipe helped you guys if you're trying this recipe at home. Be sure to tune in next week because we are experimenting with whole wheat flour for the first time, and we will be making a country raisin and walnut loaf. So I am very excited to incorporate fruits and nuts into our bread. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, be sure to subscribe, and thanks again for watching Doughing It with Paigey. I'll see you guys next time. I hate saying batard. Okay. Today we'll be making, I've got it. Was that good?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I hate that. Does that make sense? I'm not sure. Was that my stomach?